Hey there, party people! You've asked for this, now you're getting it. I'm here with my very own Jujutsu Sorcerer, fresh from catching up with the anime, and because I got baited into thinking Season 3 was already happening, so I put this video on the schedule early. And I'm gonna be real, I had a bit of a struggle with this one, but before I get into that, let me introduce you to Gin Tokihoshi, either a first or special grade sorcerer, I couldn't really decide. Art is by the amazingly wonderful Luchi. Go support her using the link in the description. Now, for a bit about this character, I was thinking of having her be a distant, very distant, relative to Tengen, but honestly, I can't really decide on that point either. But you're sure to see why I've been playing around with that idea when I get into her curse techniques, which honestly was the hardest part to come up with. But for Gin herself, she is a very laid-back, simple type. Likes to flirt and doesn't like fighting all too much, which can be quite the problem when she is a Jujutsu sorcerer. Though she does understand the job that she has to do and is quite good at it, it's just that she kinda refuses to take on a mission without a partner, even when she can do it herself. She also has a terrible gauge of severity. A special grade curse ain't a big deal. Sure, it's a pain in the ass, but you gotta do it, right? But flubbing a pickup line while chatting up a pretty girl, or missing the 2-for-1 sale at the supermarket? Well, that just means that it's time to play in traffic, because it's the end of the goddamn world. At least, that's how she views things. Though, speaking of her flirty nature, she is actually rather successful at it, as she is often mistaken for a pretty man. I had just read Handsome Girl and Sheltered Girl, and the first volume of the guy she was interested in wasn't a guy at all, so I was heavily inspired to have her look the part of those characters. I just wanted an androgynous lady killer, and of course, I had to make her a bit of a weirdo on top of that, given the series we're in. But one more note on her design, I'm just really proud of the outfit that I came up with for her, and how well Luchi executed it. Got that panache to it without it being too outlandish. But her disposition and looks aside, what you're really here for is what she can do. And that is the part that took me the longest to come up with, as it did take me quite a while until I was really feeling the groove of the series. At the start of Jujutsu Kaisen, the anime wasn't bad, it just felt really bog standard and not unique enough. Like, on a technical level, it was good, totally watchable, but there was nothing to it that really stood out to me and didn't really inspire me until episode 12.
The next words that spilled from my lips came from so deep within my gut that it nearly made everything I've ever said feel like a lie.
That is when it finally clicked for me, and I was able to really get into it, and felt the character start forming in my head. I like to have my characters fit into the world, make them feel like they are actually characters that could actually exist in the series, at least to me. But once that hurdle is crossed, it's game time. And speaking of, that has everything to do with Gin's curse technique, time manipulation. Now, before you get crazy in the comments, hear me out. I am a firm believer that unchecked time manipulation, while it does have its place, is generally boring. The blanket ability to control time in a major character is a cop-out, and should be reserved for very special side characters, like the impartial types. So, in that vein, Gin's curse technique isn't that. In fact, it only has a limited effect on things outside of herself. For living creatures, the most she can do is alter their perception of time. Have them see things as moving faster or slower than they actually are. Think like the drug that Mayuri used in Bleach for an extreme example. Or she can completely stop their perception of time like Rollo from Code Geass. It is an incredibly useful technique, but it's not like she is actually freezing time. So, say for example she were to be fighting Gojo. Her stopping his perception of time wouldn't negate his near-perpetual use of Limitless. So, she'd still be unable to hit him. Things like that. She can more freely control the time of inanimate objects, however. Though that said, it's not like she can pause a bullet in mid-air, as she has no control over space. And while usually they are lumped together, they are very separate, and the specifics is getting into quantum mechanics that I just don't want to get into for this video. Instead, she can reverse the time of the bullet to before it was even crafted, or make the sword being swung at her rust into dust. Ultimately, it very much comes down to her timing of it, as it's not an instantaneous occurrence, and the pun is very much intended. She also has trouble using this technique on cursed objects and tools, though it can be done given the time. At the end of the day, she finds it easiest to use this skill to make quick repairs and restorations. The biggest part of the technique comes from when Gin uses it on herself. Obviously, she can alter her own perception of time, seeing things fast or slow as needed, training herself to react at those speeds. But the true power comes in being able to turn back the clock on herself. As she says, her time is her own, and she's got all the time in the world. A grave injury can be undone without using a reversed curse technique, as she reverts her body to before it happened. If she has it on a delayed reaction, she can come back from even a fatal blow, including decapitation, with her ability to slow down time perception making that easier, as she can make an instant last a minute for her mind to use the technique. She put in a lot of gruesome training to get her reaction speed with that technique down pat. She has certainly lost track of how many times she cut off her own finger until she was able to do it and rewind it without even thinking about it. And on top of all this, it can work on more than just her body. In case of something truly traumatic, she is able to rewind her memories. Though it should be noted that this is not selective. She fully loses the memories of however long she decides to rewind them, so she does try not to use it too much. It's just very handy in emergencies. And finally, she's able to refresh her cursed energy to a certain extent. Using her curse technique to replenish cursed energy in this way does take a toll on Gin's body and soul, so she can really only get away with using it once a month at most before seriously damaging herself. But still, it is quite the ace in the hole for long, drawn-out fights, being able to return to a prime state while your opponent is worn out. Though, be that as it may, as I said before, she doesn't care about fighting too much. And it kind of works out for her, as her curse technique is more supplementary, better for making her annoying as hell to fight against, and making fights easier for her partners. But when she does have to fight, it is good for augmenting her fighting capabilities, especially when it comes down to timing.
Black Flash. It's a distortion of space, born from the impact of cursed energy delivered within a trillionth of a second of a blow.
Now, it should be noted that she cannot properly perform a Black Flash. She's using a curse technique to assist her in nailing down the timing, and it does produce a stronger attack, but not to the level of the Black Flash. She calls it a pseudo Black Flash, which is weaker, but she could do it rapid fire, and it's something that she can do 100% of the time with absolute certainty. Then, of course, there is Gin's ultimate technique, Domain Expansion, God of Time. Remember how I said that there is a time and a place for unchecked time manipulation? Well, it's here! Inside this domain, Gin has full control over time, to the point that the Gin that appears within the domain is not the same one that activated it. Instead, she is a hypothetical future version of a perfect Gin Tokihoshi, plucked from the endless stream of branching timelines. And with that, it stands to reason that time also flows completely differently within the domain. From the outside, it appears to dissipate as soon as it finishes forming, but Gin could spend hours inside with her opponent, and not having a single memory of what happened because, again, different Gins. She has 3 ways of dealing with her enemies within her domain. Have them instantly receive every wound that they have ever taken in the past, de-age them out of existence, or age them into dust. Also, it has an upper hand in domain clashes, as being in control of time, Gin is able to just turn back time to before her opponent even attempted to activate their domain expansion. So, yes, this is, all in all, kinda super broken, but it's a domain. I think I'm allowed to have fun with it and go crazy. Genuinely, overall, I'm happy with how I came up with the rest of her abilities to definitely make her strong, but not too insane within the world of Jujutsu Kaisen. Without domain expansion, she's not likely to really win any fights by herself, but my main goal was to just make her insanely difficult to beat. Can't win, won't lose, that kind of deal. Just a fun character there for support and laughs that will have some shining moments for being really scary. Plus, Domain Gin would just be the perfect type of character to give all wise and sagely advice, while being impartial, seeing as they are essentially a being outside of time. But hey, what do you think of my very own Jujutsu Sorcerer? If you enjoy her, please like and subscribe for more, and let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. I am very interested to find out. With all that said, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to catch you next time in the Void. Later.